What if I told you that the food most people reach for to build muscle may not be the best weapon against age-related muscle loss? You have probably heard for decades that eggs are the ultimate muscle food, the gold standard for protein. But here is the surprising truth. When it comes to fighting sarcopenia, the silent muscle wasting condition that accelerates after our 30s, there is something even more powerful and far more effective at helping you rebuild lean muscle naturally. Sarcopenia is not just about losing strength. It is about losing your independence, your metabolic power, and even your ability to burn fat efficiently. Think of your muscles as your body's engine. They are not just for movement, they are the largest site of glucose disposal, a key regulator of insulin sensitivity, and a critical buffer against inflammation. When your muscles shrink, so does your ability to regulate blood sugar, burn fat, and keep your metabolism humming. That is why people in their 50s or 60s often feel weaker, gain weight more easily, and recover more slowly. The real issue is not aging itself. It is unaddressed sarcopenia. Now, here is where the myth of eggs comes in. Eggs do contain high-quality protein, but protein alone is not enough to stop or reverse sarcopenia. What your body really needs is a synergy of specific nutrients, timing strategies, and metabolic triggers that tell your muscles to grow, repair, and stay metabolically active. And here's the kicker. Research is showing that certain overlooked foods and strategies can outperform eggs when it comes to building muscle and preserving strength. This is the root cause approach. Instead of asking what food has protein, we need to ask what actually signals muscle tissue to regrow, stay insulin sensitive, and resist breakdown. In today's talk, I am going to break down exactly what those foods and strategies are. You are going to discover why relying on eggs alone may leave you stuck, and what you should focus on instead if your goal is to stay lean, energized, and strong well into your later years. We will look at 6 critical insights from amino acid signaling to mitochondrial activation to liver health, all of which play a role in keeping your muscles young. And more importantly, I will give you practical steps you can apply right away: how to eat, when to eat, and what nutrients to prioritize. So, forget the old advice. This is about unlocking the smarter, science-backed way to fight sarcopenia and rebuild muscle fast. Most people are taught that muscle growth comes down to one thing: eating enough protein. And while protein is absolutely essential, here is what most people do not realize. Not all protein sends the same signal to your body. You could eat large amounts of protein and still fail to activate the machinery that actually tells your muscle fibers to grow. Here is what is really going on inside your body. Muscle growth is triggered by a molecular switch called mTOR mechanistic target of rapamycin. Think of mTOR like the ignition key for your muscles. When it is turned on, your body gets the message: build new muscle. When it is turned off, your body does not prioritize muscle repair, even if amino acids are floating around in your bloodstream. So, what flips that switch? The single most powerful amino acid for this is leucine. Leucine is one of the branched chain amino acids, and research shows it is the primary driver of M2R activation. In other words, leucine is like the spark plug in your engine. Without it, the fuel just sits there. Eggs do contain leucine, but here is the problem. You need a specific threshold of leucine at each meal to trigger meaningful muscle protein synthesis. That threshold is roughly 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine in one sitting. Now, let me give you a simple analogy. Imagine you are trying to turn on a lamp. Protein is the electricity in the wires, but leucine is the light switch. Without flipping the switch, you never get light, no matter how much electricity is available. This is why some people eat plenty of protein yet still experience muscle loss as they age. They are not reaching the leucine threshold needed to activate the growth signal. What the research shows is that foods richer in leucine, such as whey protein, grass-fed beef, and certain legumes like soy, can outperform eggs when it comes to stimulating muscle protein synthesis. In fact, a study in the Journal of Nutrition found that older adults who consumed a leucine-enriched meal had significantly greater muscle-building response compared to those who consumed standard protein meals, even when total protein amounts were similar. So, what does this mean practically? Here is the protocol I recommend. Aim for 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein per meal. Make sure at least 2.5 grams of leucine are included in that serving. That usually looks like 1 scoop of whey protein isolate, or about 4 ounces of lean beef, or a combination of plant proteins that together hit the leucine target. Space these protein-rich meals evenly across the day, rather than loading all your protein at dinner. This ensures multiple triggers for muscle synthesis throughout the day. Now, you might be wondering, do you need to supplement leucine directly? For most people, the answer is no, as long as you are strategic about food choices. But if you are older than 50, your muscles develop something called anabolic resistance. They become less responsive to protein signals. In this case, adding a leucine supplement or using whey protein specifically designed with extra leucine can help overcome that resistance. And here's the bigger picture. It is not about eggs versus no eggs. It is about understanding the signal. Eggs can still be part of your diet, but if you rely on them as your sole muscle-building food, you may never cross that leucine threshold. By diversifying your protein sources and targeting leucine, you turn on the growth switch consistently, keeping your muscles metabolically active. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I share evidence-based strategies like this every day to help you protect your metabolism and build a healthier, stronger body. So remember this first insight. It is not just protein, it is the leucine signal that counts. Without flipping the switch, you never light up the muscle building process. When most people think about building muscle, they think about protein, calories, or maybe lifting weights. But the real secret lies much deeper, inside the tiny power plants of your cells called mitochondria. These are the structures that take the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe and turn them into energy. Without healthy mitochondria, your muscle tissue simply cannot rebuild efficiently, no matter how much protein you are eating. Here's what is really going on inside your body. Each muscle fiber contains hundreds to thousands of mitochondria. When they are functioning well, they produce clean energy in the form of ATP, which is the fuel that drives every contraction and every repair process. But as we age or as we expose our body to toxins, poor diet, or lack of activity, mitochondria become damaged and sluggish. Instead of producing clean energy, they leak reactive oxygen species, which accelerates inflammation and weakens the muscle. Over time, this mitochondrial decline is one of the root causes of sarcopenia. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your muscles are like a city. The mitochondria are the power plants that keep the lights on, the trains running, and the factories humming. If those power plants start to fail, the whole city slows down. Traffic jams build up, factories stop producing, and neighborhoods go dark. That is exactly what happens to your muscle when mitochondria are weak. The system grinds down, repair slows, and your tissue begins to waste away. Now here's the hopeful part. Research shows that mitochondria are highly adaptable. They can multiply, repair themselves, and even grow stronger when you give them the right signals. This process is called mitochondrial biogenesis. And there are very specific foods and lifestyle strategies that can switch this process on. For example, compounds like resveratrol in berries, EGCG in green tea, and quercetin in onions and apples have all been shown to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. Omega-3 fatty acids from wild-caught fish can enhance mitochondrial efficiency and reduce inflammation inside muscle fibers. Even spices like turmeric, with its active compound curcumin, help protect mitochondria from oxidative stress. One powerful study published in Cell Metabolism demonstrated that older adults who engaged in high-intensity interval training, combined with polyphenol-rich foods, experienced dramatic increases in mitochondrial density, effectively rejuvenating their muscle cells at the cellular level. In plain terms, they made their old muscles young again. So, here's the protocol. Include polyphenol-rich foods daily. Think blueberries, pomegranates, green tea, and dark leafy greens. Incorporate omega-3 rich foods at least 3 times per week, such as salmon, sardines, or flax seeds if you prefer plant-based. Use movement strategically. Even short bursts of high-intensity interval training or resistance exercise send a powerful signal to your mitochondria to multiply and grow stronger. And do not forget recovery. Mitochondria repair themselves during deep sleep. So prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality rest is non-negotiable. When you combine these strategies, you are not just feeding your muscles, you are upgrading their internal power plants. This means more strength, more resilience, and a metabolism that keeps running hot instead of sputtering out. And here is why this matters for fat loss too. Mitochondria do not just power your muscles, they are also where fat burning happens. A healthy mitochondrial system allows your body to efficiently oxidize fat for fuel, which means less fat storage and more sustained energy. Weak mitochondria, on the other hand, leave you tired, inflamed, and more likely to gain stubborn weight. So the takeaway here is simple. You cannot out-protein poor mitochondrial function. If your power plants are failing, your muscle will too. But by activating mitochondrial biogenesis through food, movement, and recovery, you can literally breathe new life into your muscles and fight sarcopenia at its root. When we think of muscles, we usually picture the biceps, the chest, or the legs. But very few people realize that one of the most important organs for muscle health is not a muscle at all. It is your liver. Here's what is really going on inside your body. Your liver is the master regulator of metabolism. It processes nutrients from the food you eat, manages blood sugar levels, produces proteins like albumin, and even creates growth factors that directly influence muscle repair. If the liver is sluggish, overloaded with fat, or inflamed, then your muscles are starved of the raw materials and signals they need to grow. Think of your liver like the kitchen of a restaurant. The muscles are the diners out in the restaurant waiting for food. If the kitchen is clean, efficient, and well-stocked, meals come out hot and on time. But if the kitchen is cluttered, the chef is exhausted, and the ingredients are spoiled, the diners will wait, the food will come late, and the whole restaurant suffers. That is exactly how it works in your body. A tired liver means starving muscles. One of the biggest culprits here is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which now affects more than 1 in 4 adults worldwide. Often driven by excess sugar, refined carbohydrates, and alcohol, fatty liver silently blocks the liver's ability to release amino acids, produce growth factors, and manage blood sugar effectively. Research published in Hepatology shows that individuals with fatty liver have significantly reduced muscle mass and strength compared to those with healthy livers, even when total protein intake was the same. So, if you are eating protein every day, but your liver is inflamed or fatty, your muscles are not getting the message. They are being starved of both building blocks and hormonal triggers. Here is the protocol for restoring liver health to rebuild muscle. Eliminate refined sugars and alcohol as much as possible. These are the 2 fastest ways to overload the liver. Prioritize cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower, which contain compounds such as sulforaphane that help detoxify the liver and improve function. Add in bitter foods like arugula, dandelion greens, and lemon water. These stimulate bile flow, which supports fat metabolism and liver efficiency. Incorporate intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. Periods of fasting give the liver time to reset and burn stored fat, which is critical for reversing fatty liver. Support your liver with high-quality protein sources like whey, pea protein, or fish. Remember, the liver itself makes proteins that influence muscle growth. One particularly fascinating study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that patients with improved liver function through dietary changes showed measurable gains in lean body mass and strength, even without changing their exercise routine. That means simply repairing your liver can set off a cascade that restores muscle health. And here is the bigger picture. Your liver is also your glycogen storage tank. Glycogen is stored carbohydrate, and it is released during exercise to fuel your muscles. If your liver cannot store or release glycogen efficiently, you run out of fuel quickly, your workouts suffer, and your ability to stimulate new muscle growth declines. If you are finding this helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day, connecting the dots between hidden root causes and practical solutions for health, longevity, and strength. So the key takeaway here is this. Muscle health is not just about what happens in the gym or on your plate. It is about what happens inside your liver. Clean up your liver, and you free your muscles to grow, repair, and stay metabolically active for decades. When people think of insulin, they usually think of blood sugar or diabetes. But here's what most people do not realize. Insulin is also one of the most important hormones for your muscle health. The state of your insulin sensitivity often determines whether your muscles thrive or waste away. Here is what is really going on inside your body. Insulin is like a key that unlocks the door of your muscle cells. When insulin is working properly, it allows glucose and amino acids to flow into your muscle fibers, where they can be used for energy and repair. This is how your body restores glycogen after exercise and how it delivers the building blocks for new muscle tissue. But when you become insulin resistant, that lock on the door no longer works well. Glucose piles up in the bloodstream. Amino acids cannot get into the muscle efficiently, and instead of being nourished, your muscle cells starve. Over time, this leads to muscle breakdown, increased fat storage, and a sluggish metabolism. This is why people with type 2 diabetes are at dramatically higher risk of sarcopenia, even when their protein intake is adequate. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your muscles are like sponges. A healthy, insulin-sensitive muscle is like a dry sponge. It soaks up nutrients and glucose effortlessly. But an insulin-resistant muscle is like a sponge that has been left out in the sun, stiff and dry. You can pour water on it all day long, but it barely absorbs anything. That is exactly what happens when your insulin sensitivity declines. Your muscles stop soaking up the nutrition they need to grow. The research is clear. A study published in Diabetes Care showed that improving insulin sensitivity through lifestyle changes directly increased muscle protein synthesis in older adults. In other words, when you restore insulin sensitivity, your muscles come back to life. So how do you do this? Here is the practical protocol. Cut back on refined carbohydrates such as bread, pasta, and sugary snacks. These spike insulin repeatedly and drive resistance over time. Pair carbohydrates with protein and fiber. This slows down absorption, keeps blood sugar stable, and makes insulin work more efficiently. Incorporate resistance training at least 3 times per week. Muscle contractions themselves act like insulin, pulling glucose into the cell even without the hormone present. This is one of the most powerful tools you have to restore insulin sensitivity. Use time-restricted eating. Studies show that narrowing your eating window to 10 hours or less improves insulin sensitivity and reduces fasting insulin levels. Add cinnamon and apple cider vinegar to meals. Both have been shown to enhance insulin signaling and help stabilize blood sugar. Another fascinating piece of research from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that older adults who combined resistance training with omega-3 supplementation improved not only insulin sensitivity, but also muscle function and physical performance. This shows that insulin health is not just about blood sugar, it directly determines how strong and resilient your muscles feel. And here is the bigger connection. When your muscles are insulin sensitive, they become the body's primary sink for glucose, meaning they help regulate your blood sugar after every meal. This prevents excess glucose from being stored as fat in the liver or around the belly. In other words, building insulin-sensitive muscle is not just protection against sarcopenia, it is also one of the most effective fat loss strategies you can use. So the key takeaway is this. If you want to rebuild muscle fast and keep it for decades, do not just think protein, think insulin sensitivity. Muscles thrive when they are insulin-sensitive sponges, soaking up nutrients and glucose with ease. Restore this ability and you restore both strength and metabolic health. For decades, eggs have been marketed as the ultimate muscle food. And while eggs are certainly a good source of protein and nutrients, they are far from the most powerful option when it comes to stopping sarcopenia and rebuilding lean tissue. The truth is, there are other foods, often overlooked, that deliver a stronger muscle-building signal, provide higher leucine levels, improve insulin sensitivity, and enhance recovery in ways eggs simply cannot. Here is what is really going on inside your body. To build muscle effectively, you need not just protein, but the right balance of amino acids, micronutrients, and timing. Eggs give you about 6 grams of protein each, but you would have to eat several to reach the leucine threshold that triggers muscle growth. Compare that to a single scoop of whey protein isolate, which delivers a rapid concentrated dose of amino acids, including over 2.5 grams of leucine. This is why whey protein consistently outperforms eggs in clinical studies on muscle protein synthesis, especially in older adults. Another overlooked powerhouse is wild-caught fish, particularly salmon and sardines. These not only provide high-quality protein, but also omega-3 fatty acids, which enhance muscle protein synthesis and reduce inflammation. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that older adults supplementing with omega-3 sesh experienced greater gains in muscle mass and strength during resistance training compared to those who did not. That is something eggs simply cannot match. Plant-based eaters are not left out here either. Soy protein and fermented legumes like tempeh provide high leucine content and are digested efficiently. In fact, a study in Nutrients found that when soy protein was consumed at adequate doses, it produced a muscle-building response comparable to animal protein, as long as the leucine threshold was reached. Combine soy with complementary proteins like quinoa or lentils, and you can easily hit that threshold without relying on eggs. But here's the secret most people miss. Timing matters just as much as food choice. After exercise, your muscles are like dry sponges primed to absorb amino acids and glucose more efficiently. This anabolic window lasts roughly 1 to 2 hours post-workout. If you provide your muscles with fast-digesting protein like whey or soy isolate during this window, you maximize the muscle-building signal. Eggs, on the other hand, digest more slowly and may not deliver amino acids quickly enough to fully capitalize on this critical period. Here is the practical protocol. After every workout, aim for 25 to 30 grams of fast-digesting protein. Whey isolate is excellent, or a high-quality soy isolate if you prefer plant-based. Add omega-3 rich foods several times per week to amplify muscle signaling and reduce inflammation. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, or chia and flax seeds if you are plant-based. Do not neglect micronutrients. Magnesium, vitamin D, and zinc all play roles in muscle function. Dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, and sunlight exposure help cover these bases. Reserve eggs as an accessory protein, not your main driver. They can round out a meal, but they should not be relied upon as your only anabolic trigger. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine two people of the same age, both trying to fight sarcopenia. Person 1 eats 3 eggs for breakfast and relies on eggs for most of their protein throughout the day. Person 2 uses a scoop of whey protein after their morning workout, has a salmon salad at lunch, and includes lentils and quinoa at dinner. Even if their total protein intake is similar, Person 2 will consistently outperform Person 1 because they are hitting the leucine threshold, enhancing insulin sensitivity, and providing anti-inflammatory support at the exact times their muscles need it most. If this kind of breakdown is helpful, make sure you subscribe. I share strategies like these daily to help you stay strong, lean, and metabolically resilient without depending on medications. So the key takeaway here is this: eggs are fine, but they are not the king of muscle foods. Whey protein, omega-3 rich fish, and leucine-dense plant proteins deliver a stronger signal. Combine that with smart timing, and you create the perfect recipe for rebuilding muscle fast. Up to this point, we have talked a lot about food, protein quality, and metabolic signals. But here is the reality: even if you eat perfectly, your lifestyle can either amplify those gains or completely cancel them out. The way you sleep, the way you manage stress, and the way you move throughout the day sets the hormonal stage for either muscle growth or muscle breakdown. Here is what is really going on inside your body. Muscle tissue is constantly in a tug of war between two forces: anabolism, the building state, and catabolism, the breakdown state. Hormones are what tip the balance. Testosterone, growth hormone, and IGF-1 push you toward anabolism, while cortisol and chronic inflammation push you toward catabolism. Your daily habits decide which direction the scale tips. Take sleep, for example. Deep sleep is when your body releases the largest pulses of growth hormone, one of the most important signals for muscle repair. If you're only sleeping 5 or 6 hours a night, you are robbing your muscles of the very hormone they need to regrow. A study in the Journal of the American Medical Association showed that even a single week of sleep restriction reduced testosterone levels in healthy young men by as much as 15%. That is the hormonal equivalent of aging a decade in 7 days. Now let us talk about stress. Cortisol is your body's main stress hormone. In short bursts, it is fine, even useful. But chronic elevated cortisol is like a wrecking ball for muscle. It breaks down muscle protein to release amino acids for fuel, increases fat storage around the belly, and interferes with testosterone and growth hormone signaling. If you are under constant stress and not actively managing it, no amount of protein shakes or gym sessions will fully protect your muscle. And then there is daily movement. Notice I did not just say exercise. Your muscles are highly responsive to the total volume of activity you perform throughout the day. Long periods of sitting shut down glucose uptake and lower insulin sensitivity, essentially switching your muscles into hibernation mode. On the other hand, even light movement, standing, walking, stretching, reactivates glucose transporters and keeps your muscle metabolically awake. One fascinating study published in Diabetologia found that breaking up sitting time with just 2 minutes of walking every half hour significantly improved glucose control and muscle insulin sensitivity in older adults. So here is the practical protocol. Prioritize 7 to 9 hours of high-quality sleep every night. Keep your room cool, dark, and free of electronics. Aim for consistent bed and wake times. Manage stress proactively. Incorporate practices like deep breathing, meditation, prayer, or even just a quiet walk outside. These lower cortisol and create a more anabolic environment. Layer in resistance training at least 3 times per week. This remains the single best trigger for muscle growth. Stay active throughout the day, use a standing desk, walk after meals, and break up sitting time every 30 minutes with a short stretch or micro walk. Protect recovery. Muscle does not grow in the gym. It grows when you allow your body to repair afterward with sleep, nutrition, and rest. Here is a simple analogy. Imagine your muscle as a construction site. Protein and nutrients are the raw materials. Exercise is the crew of workers. But hormones are the project manager if the manager is absent, stressed, or disorganized. The project stalls even if you have plenty of workers and supplies. By optimizing sleep, stress, and daily activity, you are essentially hiring the best project manager for your muscle growth. So the takeaway here is this. Do not think of lifestyle factors as optional or soft. They are the hormonal foundation. Without them, your body leans toward catabolism and sarcopenia. With them, every bite of protein and every workout pays off at a much higher rate. We began today with a surprising idea that eggs, while helpful, are not the most powerful food for protecting your muscle as you age. And now you can see why. Sarcopenia is not simply a lack of protein. It is the result of disrupted signals, failing mitochondria, an overworked liver, poor insulin sensitivity, weak food choices, and neglected lifestyle habits. Let us recap the 6 insights. Number 1, protein matters, but the leucine threshold is what flips the muscle building switch. Without enough leucine, the signal never fires. Number 2, your mitochondria are the power plants of your muscle. When they decline, energy production falters, repair slows, and sarcopenia accelerates. But with polyphenols, omega-3 ces, and smart training, you can rejuvenate them. Number 3, a sluggish liver starves your muscles. Clean up your liver with cruciferous vegetables, fasting, and bitter greens. And suddenly your muscles receive the fuel and growth factors they need. Number 4, insulin sensitivity is the difference between muscles that soak up nutrients like a sponge and muscles that starve, restore it, and you restore both muscle growth and fat burning ability. Number 5, eggs are fine, but whey protein, omega-3 rich fish, and leucine-dense plant proteins outperform them. And when you time those nutrients strategically, you maximize every rep, every workout, and every meal. Number 6, lifestyle is not optional. Sleep, stress management, and daily movement shape the hormonal environment that decides whether your muscles grow or waste away. When you put all of this together, something powerful happens. You stop fighting symptoms on the surface and begin addressing the true root causes of sarcopenia. You create an internal environment where muscle becomes easy to build, fat becomes easier to burn, and energy becomes more stable throughout the day. This is not just about staying strong in your 30s, 40s, or 50s. It is about preserving independence, vitality, and resilience into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. Here's my challenge for you. Choose just one of these strategies and apply it today. Maybe it is adding a scoop of whey protein after your workout. Maybe it is walking for 2 minutes every 30 minutes. Maybe it is cutting back on sugar to protect your liver. Pick one, start small, and track how your body responds. Over time, stack these strategies together, and you will build not just muscle, but a younger metabolism. If this added value for you, like the video and subscribe. You will join thousands of others learning how to optimize their health naturally with practical, science-based strategies that actually work. Remember, muscle is not just about looking fit. It is your engine for longevity. Protect it, and you protect your entire future.